It's The Franklin Show, live from Franklin with America's favorite adopted pup, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Lloyd Wright Sinatra Seltzer, and his friend and favorite Franklin dog adopter and purveyor of alternate facts, Michael Seltzer. I'm Marie Osborne, sometimes famous WJR news anchor, and now here's Franklin.
Oh, it's so great to be back in the studio. Thank you to my fabulous band and to you people out there. Oh my God. God bless you all. Look, and the people up there in the cheap seats. Thank you so much for being here on the Franklin Show, live in studio. It is a pleasure to be back and in the studio here with all of my friends, this great audience, the cast of characters, and we have an exceptional show coming up right after these words.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Franklin Show. Thank you to all of you up there. Oh, my God. Can we turn up the house lights? Look at that fine audience. God, I'm so grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a gentleman that I've known for 24 hours.
You're using that gentleman word,
Yeah. I know. It may not be applicable. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Tavernit, who is a retired, famous disc jockey, and announcer and personality, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But today I'm so impressed because Ron is an author of an incredible
Son of a gun.
yes. Listen to that voice. Incredible book. I love this book, and it's called "How the Heck Did They Get Those Names?" And it's all about rock and roll bands and where they got their names for their bands, and you did all this research over a period of time. And
I did. Hold on 1 second because I
Okay.
need to put my phone on.
Yeah, well,
I just had a text.
Oh, and mine
It's like,
too. So,
oh, man.
so okay. So
Sorry
now,
about that.
So Ron,
Yes.
you go back to the days of Tower 92
Yes.
here in Detroit, that incredible radio station that was in the Renaissance Center.
Yes.
In Tower 92. I don't know what tower is that?
Tower 100.
Tower 100.
15th floor, Tower 100.
Yeah.
Most beautiful studio I've ever been in my life.
I remember it well because Tony
Yeah.
Salvador was the
Yes.
sales manager. He's in San Francisco now.
Yes.
Craig Bender and Kevin Sanderson.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Steve Schramm, Steve Edwards.
Yes.
Who has been a guest on the show.
Yeah.
And you were on the air back in what was that?
Oh
70s?
boy, yes, late 70s.
Late 70s.
Late 70s. And
Tower.
Steve Schramm, by the way, was the program director
Yes, he was.
of the station.
He called
Very
himself-
nice guy.
Yes.
Very,
He-
very
he-
talented
he's-
and very
You're only
good,
saying
yeah.
that because you know he's going to watch this. And
Well,
he
that's
is
a good thing.
He is a very nice guy, and he's been
is.
on this show.
He
'Cause
is.
We've done a number of shows, tributes to
Yeah.
radio stations. He was on the Keener 13 tribute. Big fan of Keener 13.
Yeah.
As am I,
yeah.
and Franklin is.
And me as well.
And you as well. And then after Tower 92, you went to...
Then it was the same radio station, but it changed to country.
Yes, I remember.
WCXI.
Was that Gene Autry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I met Gene Autry. He came into the station one time, and we
Yeah.
talked a little bit.
Did he come in on a horse, or did he actually walk in on his own?
I think he actually walked in.
Walked in.
The
Was he
horse would have had
bow-legged?
trouble
I'm
in the elevator.
Was he bow-legged because, you know, riding horses all the... No?
I'm
curious.
afraid I don't remember that. That's one thing I do
Well,
not
we'll look it
remember.
up. My crack editor, James, will find a video of him with his bow legs if he had them. So.
Yeah, but after that it was Honey Radio.
Yeah.
All oldies all the time.
WHND
Yep.
AM. Very popular.
560
Fred
AM.
Boogie Bryan.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, there were a number of people, and Richard D.
Yeah,
He was the
yeah.
program director,
Right.
and John Ray, and there were a number of people.
Okay, that was Honey. And
Yeah.
then from there,
OMC,
WOMC,
with
where
Dick
you,
Burton and
where you worked with Burton
Tom Ryan
and Tom, and we were just together yesterday, and
Yeah,
how wonderful
yeah.
that was.
Oh, yeah.
And then you retired how many years ago?
well, it was 2008,
Yeah. Oh gosh,
so it's been a while.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
So what the hell have you been doing all these years
You know.
besides this?
You know,
None of our business, probably, right?
putzing around, you know, not,
Yeah.
not much.
That's
really.
very nice that
Not
you
really. Not
see.
much.
I've been retired for 10 years, and I've never been more exhausted because there are no days off in retirement. Am I right?
That is true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true.
But I do all the things I want to do, like this show,
Yeah.
and get paid, nothing. But anyway,
Especially when your wife has a to-do list, you know,
Yes.
about a mile long.
and she does it because
Oh,
I
yeah.
know nothing. All right, so then this book, and again, I have to say, I just met you, although I've known your name
Mm-hmm. Yes.
for years and known
Yes.
your reputation and admired you for that. But the book is so fascinating because
thank
these
you.
are all well-known
Yeah.
musical groups,
Oh,
and
yeah.
every one of them has a name. And you say, well, where did that come from? So let's just pick a few.
How about the Beatles?
Okay, how about the Beatles?
People don't realize the Beatles actually performed under 6 different names. Matter of fact, after I wrote the book, I found there was actually a 7th name. It's like, what the heck?
Really?
But they started as the Blackjacks, and they realized there was another group called the Blackjacks, so they immediately changed.
Yeah.
Johnny and the Moondogs was next. Then the Quarrymen. John Lennon
I
went
think
to
I've
Quarry Banks High School
Yeah.
in Liverpool.
That one I remember.
That came up.
Yeah.
Then they were the backup band for a European singer by the name of Tony Sheridan. And this is kind of interesting because they actually did a record with him. And Tony Sheridan did this song. It's an old Scottish folk song called My Bonnie. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie. That
Yeah.
was the song.
Yeah.
And the Beatles were the backup band. And if you listen to that song, they get into a real Beatlesque kind of thing.
Really?
After the opening words by Tony Sheridan. Anyway, they call themselves the Beat Brothers when they were doing that song. And it's the first time the Beatles have ever been heard on a 45 that people probably paid a quarter for, or whatever it was back in like 1961 or 62.
Yeah.
And now it's worth between $4,000 and $5,000 from what I understand.
Wow.
But you have to have the original, which is pretty hard to
course.
get, I guess.
Yeah.
But then they became the Silver Beatles, and then the Beatles. And Paul McCartney gives credit to Stu Sutcliffe, who was the original guitarist for the group. And he came up with the name because he knew everybody on the Beatles really liked Buddy Holly's music. Matter of fact, Paul McCartney bought Buddy Holly's, the rights to Holly's music when he passed away. But they really, they figured, or Stu Sutcliffe figured that it would be a tribute to Buddy Holly and the Crickets
Yeah.
to call themselves at first the Silver Beatles.
Oh.
And people don't realize that the Silver Beatles were actually a bug called Silver Beetles. Then they eventually dropped Beatles. But it was a tribute to Buddy Holly and the Crickets to become the Beatles.
That's pretty fascinating. That's an interesting story. All right, how about another one?
Okay. There was a group in LA called the Redwoods. And it was a good name for a group from California. They were from LA. But they figured, we're going to go national. We need another name. The girlfriend of one of the members of the group, she was reading a travel brochure. And there was an article about the Aboriginals in Australia. And she kept reading, and she said, you know, a lot of these guys were shepherds. And they would go out with the flocks of sheep, but they didn't have any fences. They didn't have any tents or huts or anything like that. They'd have to sleep on the ground. And so they would sleep on the ground. If it was a cool night, they'd get one of the sheepdogs, and they'd cuddle up with a sheepdog. And if it got a little cooler, they'd get another sheepdog, and they'd sleep with two of them. Well, a very cold night was considered to be a 3-dog night. That's how the Redwoods changed their name to 3-Dog Night.
He perked up when he heard that.
There
right?
you
That's
go.
one of your favorite bands, 3-Dog Night. You know, I mean, how can? All right. So, and there's how many in this book? How many bands?
Bands and groups, there are 170.
God, I mean, and they are all stories like that.
Yes, well, many of them, yeah. Some of them
Fascinating.
are a little shorter, but
Yeah,
you know, that's...
But they're great, great stories. I found it to be, and like I said, I just picked it up. You gave it to me yesterday, very graciously autographed it for me. But this is a fascinating read. It's on Amazon as well as other bookstores, I would imagine. If there
It's
are
on
any
all the
bookstores.
online venues.
All the online venues.
Yeah.
I would encourage you folks, how the heck did they get those names?
Yeah.
Ron Tavernit, fascinating research over a period
Thank
of,
you.
how many years did it take?
I did it about 2.5 years,
That's pretty good.
and I didn't work on it totally, you know, during that time, but off and
Yeah,
on.
but
And
it kept you away from your wife for 2.5 years, which is probably the best 2.5 years she's had in years.
you know, we've been married 27 years, the best 2 years I've ever had.
Hey, I use this every day. My wife will roll her eyes when she hears it. We've been married 48 years, 2 of the happiest years of my life. And I swear to God, you just used it very similarly. Ron, thank you so
Mike,
much.
thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, pleasure to
Dave.
know you. Thank you for being on the Franklin Show.
And love
you
your
folks,
dog, too.
Thank you. Thank you. You folks go out there and take a look at this great book.
Thank
it's
you.
a lot of fun. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. We'll be right back.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Franklin Show. I am very, very happy to be here today with a young lady who I've not met before. And so I'd like to introduce Hillary Glaser. Hillary, welcome to the Franklin Show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
And thank you for being here. So I obviously we're dealing with a somber topic, which we rarely do on this show. If you know the show, it's pretty crazy. But the Holocaust is something that obviously we take very seriously. And I was just at the Holocaust Center for a recent tour and saw the new evidence room.
Mm-hmm.
And, you cannot walk away from that experience without being moved and reminded. And so tell me a little bit about you and what drove you to becoming a speaker on behalf of the Holocaust and your grandparents who are survivors.
Sure. So I grew up here in Metro Detroit, and I used to live in Israel. And when I was in university in Israel, I studied counterterrorism with the hope of going to get my master's degree in Holocaust education. At the time, Holocaust education wasn't very digital. It was definitely not digital first, which is how many people learn about the Holocaust. And there's so much misinformation out on the internet that I thought this is going to be a great enhancement to my career. And then I ended up not doing that, and instead just continued telling my grandparents' stories. I work at a local high school. I also own a digital marketing company and a little baking company on the side. But my true love is really talking about my grandparents, talking about the families they came from that didn't survive, talking about their hometowns. I often tell groups at the Holocaust Center that my mom's parents were completely closed off. They did not want to talk about the Holocaust. My dad's parents were open books, but they were very reserved in their emotions. So it was almost like they had to cut that side out of them in order to be able to tell any of us what happened. So I didn't grow up with this understanding that speaking about the Holocaust could be like re-traumatizing yourself. Trauma wasn't something that I really put 2 and 2 together with when it comes to the Holocaust. And while I mostly speak to middle school and high school groups, every so often I get to speak to an adult group, and it changes the entire tone of how I deliver the information, because most of them have at least heard or have a basic knowledge of the Holocaust. And a couple of years ago, actually over Memorial Day weekend, during COVID, I have two sons, and my sons are now in middle school, but they were in elementary school, and they had a half day. My husband and I said, let's take you to the Holocaust Center. So we drove to Farmington Hills. And when we got there, one of the volunteers up front said, listen, your kids might be a little too young for this. We really recommend older ages. And I said, look, all of my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. I don't remember a single time where I can honestly say I knew about learning about the Holocaust. I've just always known, I've always grown up around it. And so have my kids. So nothing that they would see would be that jarring or shocking to them. And then I became acquainted with one of the people who works there. Her name is Hannah. And she said, hey, we're going to start this new 3G, third generation. I don't know if it's going to be a support group or if it's going to be an opportunity to speak, but would you be interested? And about a year later, I got an email from her saying, okay, so it's going to be another cohort of next generation speakers. And I love that the Holocaust Center does that. I love that they give the second and third generation a platform to speak about what their family that survived or their family that didn't survive, how that impacted our upbringing, how it impacted us as humans, whether our grandparents or parents told us about it or didn't. And I have a very unique story where all four of my biological grandparents are survivors. So it really drove me into this love for keeping my grandparents' memories alive and being able to tell people that there's no singular Holocaust story that's better or worse than another. They're all equally traumatic, but every story deserves to be told.
Oh man, I tell you, I how grateful are we to have survivors that are willing and able to tell their stories, and people like yourself who are willing to carry on their stories to the next generations. I mean, and how unique having both of your grandparents, both pair of grandparents being survivors. And I presume they're no longer with us.
Sadly, they are not. My mom's father passed away in 2009, I want to say, 2008, I think. And my next grandmother passed away. My dad's mother passed away in 2011. And then my mom actually had passed away about 10 years ago, and her mom passed away 4 months after her. Mm. And then my grandfather on my dad's side passed away when my kids were probably 3 and 4. So they still have some really good memories with at least 2 of their great grandparents. But my kids will tell you that they feel like they've grown up knowing my grandparents because of all the stories we share about them.
And obviously you were close to your grandparents and were able to talk to them about these things.
Oh, I could talk to them about pretty much anything. One of my favorite things to tell, especially middle schoolers, is my mom's father would pick me up from middle school almost every single day and then take me to McDonald's because he could see how much middle school did not agree with me. I wasn't a great student. I was getting made fun of and bullied constantly. And in my grandfather's mind, McDonald's has Happy Meals. Mm-hmm. If you supersize a meal, because you could do that back then it was just that much more happiness. So if he gave me McDonald's, then it would make me happier. And when I tell kids this, that I have this very unique connection that all of my siblings and cousins have with our grandparents, but they helped raise me. And because of that, they knew me, I would say almost better than my parents. I could talk to them about anything. I could hear in their voices when they weren't feeling well or something was wrong. I didn't have to look at them to be able to see that they were off. There's just that connection that we had with them. So anytime I got to spend time with them was always a good time. It was always fun.
That's a beautiful thing, and how fortunate you are to have had that, and to have had survivors that were willing to talk about it. I have to say, I have cousins who were survivors, and it was just not a subject that was broached. Too painful, and for many, obviously. I'm also presuming that your grandparents preceded the opening of the Holocaust Center here in Michigan and weren't able to participate in that.
Yes and no. To be honest, they were not huge fans of the Holocaust Center. They felt that all four of them across the board felt that it was important. Well, I shouldn't say all four of them. Two of them felt it was important to continue telling the stories so that those who died don't die a second death where we don't remember them. My mom's parents, my mom's mom didn't start speaking about what happened to her in the Holocaust until I was 15. And I was the person that she really talked to about it, mostly because I was annoying and kept bugging her. And I had an assignment for school. It's something that I tell groups actually at the Holocaust Center when talking about my papa, my mom's father. I talk about this huge argument that I got into with my papa and how I came to learn of his story and my grandmother's story. But my grandfather, he would tell me, no one's going to learn anything from our stories. No one's going to learn anything from our experiences. Why do we have to constantly bring it back up? Can't we just move on with our lives? As an adult, I see it now as it was too painful to talk about.
Yeah.
But, as a teenager, as a preteen, I ask a lot of questions. I have ADHD, so I love knowing answers to things. Yeah. And there would come a time where my papa would get so annoyed with me asking questions that he would just look at me and say, "Why do you have so many questions? How is this humanly possible? Read books. Let me take you to the library. I don't want to share my story with you." Wow. So in some way, I think they'd all be very proud that their stories are being shared and that there are still lessons to be learned from what happened to them.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I feel like maybe my mom's dad is begrudgingly happy about it. I don't know that he would love it entirely, but I like the fact that I get to tell his story because it was just so unique.
Well, and look, these are stories that have got to be shared. Forget about the Holocaust deniers. Obviously, that's a lost cause. But the reality is there have been so many documentaries, movies, books, stories, Schindler's List, etc. And, you just can't forget that this was an atrocity that affected 6 million Jews. And there are, roots of that right now in America. And so it's really important when you see the kind of unrest we've seen in recent years since October 7th on college campuses, to make sure that we keep these stories alive. We have a very good friend, Monty Must, who I talk about on this show often when it comes up, who has created 3 incredible books called Living Witnesses and went around the world interviewing survivors before we lost them. And I don't know if your grandparents were involved in that project. I presume not, since you're not responding to that. But
they were not. They
but those books, Monty, I'm sure.
I do. My grandparents kept their stories very close to their chests unless you were family.
Yeah.
So they didn't love sharing those stories out loud, with the exception of my mom's mom. Once she started telling her story, she did not stop. Oh, yeah. Sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay. It's the Franklin Show. Franklin is right here at my feet. So, we're big fans of people who love puppies.
I have 3 of them, and one of them loves to torment another one. So never a dull moment.
So I am so grateful for you and for the work that you're doing. But let's move on to a less somber note. You indicate you have other businesses. You have a bakery. You have a design company. Let's talk about Hillary and the other facets of your personality and your entrepreneurship.
Sure. I have an in-home bakery called Trixie's Treats, and named after the dog who was just barking. I initially started baking actually my grandmother's baked goods because I missed them and I was having a lot of anxiety. Then I also very quickly realized that I don't love eating baked goods that often. I can only eat so many like pieces of babka in one sitting. And a friend of mine recommended that I just start selling them. So I did. And because I also own a digital marketing company, I know how to market myself, where during times where I am too busy to do any baking, I know when to like take my foot off the gas pedal. And other times where I know I have more time on my hands, then I know how to amp up the conversations more, how to get more active on social. So both of those feed into the creative side that I love so much.
Well, I can tell just by looking at you, you're creative because you're wearing cool glasses just like me, and I'm also a former marketing guy too. So anyway, and Trixie's Bakery, how does one acquire your product?
It's almost specific to Metro Detroit, although I have had a few people order and pay for shipping of any of our items. But if they go to Trixie's Treats with a Z on the end instead of an S, .com, that is the best way to take a look at what we have. We've got some items that are specific to being like Polish Jewish, but with roots in Russia, because at one time Poland was taken over by the Russians, and my grandmother on my dad's side grew up with a very heavy Russian influence, having been born just after the Poles took their country back.
Wow.
So I love being able to sell things that aren't what we would consider traditional Jewish baked goods.
Yeah.
Things like piroshkis or pirshkis, we call them, or pletzel, which is like a little onion board. I know somewhere my grandmother is felling over it and loving that I'm keeping her recipes as alive as my Hungarian grandma, who grew up making kolaches and all these incredible baked goods from Hungary.
Well, I can tell you that my crack editor, James Drum, will have your website up, and people will be able to peruse your products. And I'm so grateful to you for the work that you're doing. And I know a lot of people will be very pleased to meet you and hear about this. And so, Hillary Glaser, I am thankful to you for taking your time to be with us, and Trixie being right there at your side. Franklin is here at my side. We wish you all the best, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Can I add one other thing?
Yes, you can.
Sign off. So the article you referenced about within the Jewish News came from an event that our school district, the Walled Lake School District, held at the Holocaust Center. I sit as the PTSA Council president and also the PTSA president at my kids' middle school. And I felt like it was really important, especially after October 7th, to keep these stories on everybody's, like, the top of mind for everyone. So our PTSA Council put together this event at the Holocaust Center where people who have never been there finally got a chance to go. They get to have a little nosh to eat, and then they got to listen to me tell my dad's father's story for the first time. And as somebody who also works within that school district, it was one of the coolest things I've ever been part of. And I was so grateful to the staff at the Holocaust Center for not just agreeing to let us do this, but to really helping me put it all together and making it a really successful event. So to be able to have my uncle there, to take this picture with some of my family in front of my grandparents' picture was just mind blowing for me.
It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and it's necessary. And it's necessary all over the country, all over the world, particularly in light of what has happened since October 7th. So I thank you so much on behalf of an entire community and people all over the country, all over the world, who will see this interview on the Franklin.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been the best part of my day today.
Oh, wonderful. That's what we do here. We try to make people happy, and we're happy to make people happily. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more on the Franklin Show. We'll be right back. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you out in that audience. I love you all. God bless. We'll be right back.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Franklin Show. Franklin and I are so delighted to introduce to you an icon, a legend, a friend, a great author, a columnist, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and everyone's Tim Kiska. Thank you and welcome.
Icon? Oh my God. there must be a low bar for that.
No. You're right up there with major celebrities.
Wow.
So Tim, you have been writing and part of the media for decades here in Detroit.
1970, as a matter of fact.
Wow. Okay, and currently what?
I teach journalism over at University of Michigan, Dearborn. I've been there for a while, so I teach journalism and I do a podcasting class as well, which is part of journalism. So that's what I do. And plus, I do the Detroit History podcast, which we're working on our 7th season right now. So that's pretty much it between teaching and working on the podcast.
Well, your students are very lucky to have you. I'll tell you that, because you're a fountain of knowledge and wisdom. And you've written books, yeah?
Yep, 4 of them. Yep, you got it. So
and are they available on the Amazon where everything else is?
They should. Yeah, they should be. There's one that came out in 1989. I think that's still easy to get. But yes, the 4 of them are all out there as far as I know.
Well, you're so humble. You want to talk about your books, because people will go and James Drum, our crack editor, will probably put them up here on the show.
Well, I mean, I did one in '89 called Detroit's Powers and Personalities, and it's sort of like the thumbnail sketches of the people who ran this town. But then I did one.
I was in that, wasn't I, Tim? And if not, shouldn't it be edited and abridged?
It should be edited and changed entirely. Yeah. But I came one that's called From Soupy to Nuts.
Oh yeah,
and that came out in 2005, and it's people that were in TV starting actually the late 40s and going well into the 90s. So I did that one. I did one for Wayne State University Press called A Newscast for the Masses. And what that is the development of TV news in Detroit and how it developed over a period of time. And then the other one was called Detroit Television. It was put out by Arcadia Books. If you've seen those things, they're kind of like these beige colored books that you see them in drugstores and stuff like that. So that's what I've done over
over a period of
Well,
years.
well, Soupy, was one of our earliest guests. I'm very proud to have been one of the original architects of the Detroit radio reunions, which well.
Yep.
Raised a lot of money for charity over the years, and brought a bunch of media folks together on a regular basis, which I still do. But Soupy Sales was our guest, I think, in 1998, and man, and that was a crazy event. And he's just an incredible talent. Had that great Soupy show on Channel 7 in Detroit back in the 60s or 50s. Was it 50s?
50s, 1950s. And he and actually, if you look back at the books, ABC had to put out its financial statements. And this is back in about 1955. And ABC, there's the network, of course, but then they owned 5 TV stations, one of which was Channel 7 here in Detroit. They were losing money at the ABC network because they were at that time, the junior network of the 3. They were losing money in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, but they were making money in Chicago, and they were making a ton of money here in Detroit. And that's largely due to Soupy. So you could actually say, make a credible case that it was Soupy Sales who pretty well saved the ABC TV network. For what it is now. But yeah, he had 2 shows. He had his show that guys like you and I used to watch when we were younger. And then, of course, he had an 11 o'clock show, which was more of a nightclub. He had Charlie Parker on, Miles Davis, you name it. So no, he was truly a big deal. Never really got the success elsewhere that he got here in Detroit. He went to Los Angeles, was there for a while, New York for a while, and then of course he was on, I think, a couple of different talk shows and stuff like that. But,
he made the rounds as a guest, and he did, some of those shows. But he was recognized nationally. But he has an illustrious career here in Detroit, and I didn't remember the late night show, which obviously was eventually replaced by Bill Bonds at 11 o'clock.
Right. Channel 7 really didn't get much into news for a long time. It was Channel 4, which of course is owned by the Detroit News. They had some marketing reasons to get into news on TV. But Channel 7 figured, okay, I think they figured, as opposed to going up against the journalism powerhouse, which Channel 4 and the Detroit News were in their day, they decided to, go the entertainment route. And that's what they did with Soupy and you name it. Rita Bell a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, not only that, Channel 7 was like the country club here. I mean, I remember, and I think it was Oprah Winfrey who came in for an appearance who said, "My God, this is like a country club." Well, we used to play croquet on the lawn on Channel 7's on Fridays, and Bonds and company would join us, and every Friday the media world would shut down and go over to the country club at Channel 7 and hang out and eat hot dogs and play croquet, and then we'd go home and call it a weekend. So
it was really, well, I think still is, but at that time really was a wondrous place. And being part of the ABC empire really had its advantages. When they got sold to Scripps Howard in the early 80s, it was funny. A friend of mine says, we knew we were into something different because whenever the ABC brass came in, you'd see you'd see a line of limousines pulling up.
Right.
When Scripps Howard's got there, it was taxi cabs. And they kind of realized, we're not in Kansas anymore, are we?
No. So, the good old days were great old days. But
I mean, it wasn't the golden days; it was the platinum days.
Right. But that takes us to where we are today. And you wrote just a brilliant column in the Free Press recently about the media industry and how it's changed. And I was a part of it, and still am now that we have an award-winning, a national award-winning new talk show, The Franklin Show. We just won a national award. I'll be going to Boston to collect that award. Very proud of that.
You should
But
be.
aside from that, and my massive ego, I you
Pretty good.
you wrote, well, humility passed me by long ago, and anybody who knows that. Yeah, but so you wrote this article, and let's talk about that. How the radio business has changed, how the national companies that have swallowed up the local stations, and you got DJs that are voice tracking instead of doing live shows, and they're being used in platforms all across the country and being paid not much. I mean, speak to that, because that is, it's a fascinating and very sad story, really.
Well, it is, and bear in mind, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but I don't know. Well, the bottom line is, if you grew up here in Detroit in the 60s, which is what I did, there were only a fairly small number of radio stations. I recall when I was in high school, there were like 3 and then 4 rock and roll stations. There was CKLW, WXYZ it was rock and roll, but they also, you heard Sinatra and other folks on that. WKNR, of course, and then later WABX, and then WRIF and what came in. But it was really, we had almost everybody listened to a small number of stations, and I think there was a common discourse. I mean, if you walked into school, in high school in Detroit, everybody was sort of on the same page and were listening to the same music. Well, now what you've got is the world has changed. So you've got podcasts. There are hundreds of thousands of those out there. Some of them are really good, some of them really bad. But the technology has changed. You can get that. You can go on satellite radio and get, my God, hundreds of stations. I remember growing up with 3 or 4 radio stations. I think now, I think there are probably at least 10 versions of soft rock that they've got on Sirius XM. So what's happened is the listenership has splintered into tiny little pieces, and everybody's sort of living in their own self-chosen world. You can listen to whatever you want, whenever you want, and that's kind of left the over-the-air radio kind of not in a good place, and almost all of the big chains are right now running into financial trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to say that much of this changed when Steve Jobs invented the iPod, and people were able to put their own collections of music together on this little tiny electronic device, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which now we have on our phones, but the iPod really changed and revolutionized music to the extent that you no longer had to rely upon your favorite radio stations to play your favorite songs, because you could play whatever you want, whenever you want.
That's right. And I put my playlist out there, and it was just a really bizarre playlist. If you look at it, everything from Sun Ra, who was, an experimental jazz, is, by the way, he's deceased, but the band goes on, experimental jazz to the Carpenters, my guilty pleasure.
And I have done shows as tribute, because I do love this business and spent 40 years in it.
Yeah.
I do love talking about the nostalgia of the Detroit radio market, which mirrored all throughout the country. LA had their major stations, and Chicago and Boston. But I did shows on Keener 13 and had some of the still with us Keener DJs.
Yeah.
I did a show on ABX. Similarly, I did a show on Riff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm constantly helping people look back nostalgically on what we had. And it's not that it's so bad today. It's different, but it has revolutionized, because people you've got Sirius XM, you've got hundreds of channels on that platform. dedicated to very specific categories of music. If you're a country fan, if you're a jazz fan, if you're a blues fan, if you're a rock, classic rock, But yes, it has changed the landscape locally, and we are losing that local personality that, I mean, when I read recently that WJR has dropped to number 23 in the Detroit market.
Is it 23 now? I thought it was 19.
It was 23 in the last writing.
Wow.
And this was a powerhouse radio station with J.P. McCarthy at the helm. And, since, I mean, it's unbelievable to think about. And AM radio in general is only really being actively listened to for probably sports and conservative talk. That's about the major formats that you find on AM radio. I mean, there was even a drive to remove AM radio from cars going forward, and there were entrepreneurs who came to the Congress and begged them not to eliminate AM radio from cars. People are still dependent on news and weather and information, and so that's been tabled. But I mean, that just tells you how the industry has changed.
Oh, I remember talking to a friend of mine who was in sales on WJR. This probably would have been in the early 80s. And we were talking, and I was talking about, did you guys see the latest ratings book? And she says, yeah, it's around somewhere, but we don't usually bother to listen to it because we're always number one, And I'm not sure I believe that entirely. But what I'm saying though is that you're right, and I covered City Hall and the Wayne County and the courts back in the 70s and well into the 80s. There was always somebody from JR sitting next to me, no matter what county commission meeting that was going on. They were everywhere, and it was a spectacular news department. And I think that, just having that department kind of slimmed down to, I don't know what's left there.
Bare bones.
Marie Osborne, who I worked with at WWJ, is there. And she was a spectacular reporter. She could go anywhere. But, I mean, there used to be like 15 Marie Osbornes, running around JR, and no,
Marie is a very good friend of mine. She's going to be the announcer of this show that we're on right now. I'm going to have Marie.
All right.
Do the intro. We have a long history together, but you speak the truth, and it's reality. It's just there are still some great broadcasters out there like Marie. But, but the business the model has changed so much that it's a challenge to monetize. And they are looking at every way to I don't want to say cut corners, but to be efficient. They have to be efficient. So they're using voice tracking. They're using disc jockeys in multiple cities. Yep. And you don't know that they're not there sitting in the studio in Boston. They're in their studio in Detroit or Washington or Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know more about. You've probably forgotten more about that business than I know. But I'd be hard pressed. I don't know what anybody could have done in the radio business. They might have been able to delay what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the technology is. They call it. I can't remember the term. I think disruptive technology. It's disrupted everything. Yeah. And by the way, if you look at it, things have, in no business, no media business has ever stayed the same for any period of time. I mean, I'm working on a documentary about the history of the Detroit Free Press, over the decades.
Right.
Yeah. But just how the newspaper business changed.
Same.
In the same thing.
Exactly. Tim, we used to wake up and read Bob Talbert,
yes.
And God bless him. He wrote numbers of articles about yours truly because of my uniqueness. And I was friends with him for years. Yeah. We used to read Carol T. in the Detroit News, the gossip column. Right?
Yeah.
Bold-faced names.
Yeah.
Betty Lou Peterson, a columnist at the Free Press, and
Yep,
Frank.
I knew her well. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, but who do we? There are national people like Peggy Noonan at the Wall Street Journal, and
let me
yeah.
bow.
Right.
She is so good.
Yes, she's very, very good. Now, so there's still media people doing this and doing it very well, but it's just different, and you just can't go back. We don't have, as you say, media is an ever-changing and evolving industry. You and I spent most of our time in the glory days of the 70s and the 60s and the 70s, where Detroit television, Detroit radio, and every market across the country. And I'm familiar with many major broadcast markets had the same. There were gods, there were idols. There was the Bill Bonds, there was the Dick Purton, there was the J.P. McCarthy, and those people ruled the airwaves, and we don't have that. We don't have that.
No, and if I can add, I can't say that audio. I think in a lot of ways we're living in a golden age, because these podcasts are out there. I'll just pick one out randomly. Rachel Maddow has one called Ultra, and some of the reporting and her work is, my God, it's fantastic. Malcolm Gladwell, who's done a lot of different stuff, has something called Revisionist History. This stuff is as good or better than anything I think that you could ever hear on radio throughout its history. And there are some great people.
Well, Joe Rogan, who has the #1 podcast in the country.
Right.
I don't know how many millions and millions of people listen to Joe Rogan every day.
That's right.
And this guy goes on for 90 minutes. Well, we had Rush Limbaugh, God bless Rush. He was 3 hours, no guests, just talk. And so there are still great journalists and personalities and hosts.
No question.
It's a different environment.
No question about it. And also, by the way, the thing that I do, the Detroit History Podcast, we've done 63 of them so far, 6 seasons.
Wow.
There's no way in hell that I could have ever done that under the old system. These things run 20 minutes to a half an hour. But okay, my budget is basically, I have an editing system.
Right.
I've got a server that I pay for, and I'm the stuff that I'm using. Adobe Audition is the program. You could edit. I swear to God, you could probably edit the sound for Star Wars on that thing, and not miss a beat. And it cost me $30 a month. So what I'm saying, the barrier for entry is a lot lower than.
Once again, I should be in your class because I could learn from you. I don't know. I spend it cost me $10,000 an episode to make the Franklin Show. Of course, I pay myself $9,500, but that neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So, but yes, you're right. We have so many new avenues to communicate, and that's a nightmare for the marketing people. Me being a retired marketing person, I wouldn't know where to begin an advertising campaign today. Back in the day, we could buy television, local television. You buy Bill Bond's 11 o'clock news. You buy Good Afternoon Detroit with Kelly and Turner. You buy WOMC radio. You buy WJR radio. You put an ad in the Free Press and an ad in the Detroit News. And that was an advertising campaign that brought in traffic into the weekend for retail customers. Today, good God, I have no idea how you utilize the media.
Well,
it's
but that's the thing, though. I mean, I think the way it's set up now, you can pinpoint, who you're after. So, in other words, hypothetically, okay, I'm in my early 70s. I'm male, right? Buick would be, you're going to advertise Buick, you're going to, get my Facebook thing and shoot a message to me about Buicks or something like that. So you're able to, yeah, exactly. And I think you've probably been there before, where if you click on something for, let's say, a pair of shoes,
right,
you're never going to hear the end of it.
Right.
But shoes.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah. So,
or even if you say that you're looking for something, and suddenly it populates all over your.
You just think it. You just think it. They somehow know what you're thinking. I don't know how they
is not listening.
Yeah, right. And so I think it's a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
But I think, and so you're probably wasting less money.
All right, but Tim, let's just look at it this way. You and I, we've known each other for years. We're in the same demo. I'm 69. I'll be 70 in September. Please, Franklin, don't throw a parade again. You don't have to do that every year. But so if Facebook wants to sell you a Buick, what do you think they're gonna? I mean, I'm the same demo as you. Would I be a Buick guy?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. See, I don't know how they work all of this.
That's my point.
Yeah.
We are both in the same demo, but we're very different humans, and for all kinds of reasons.
Right.
I think there's an awful lot of money that is being spent trying to find you, trying to find me.
Right.
And I don't know that.
But the point, though, would be, okay, my students over at U of M Dearborn, they're in their 20s.
Yeah.
And they're late teens, early 20s, and through there.
Yeah.
The chances of you selling a Buick to one of these kids is not very big. But but if you're Chevy or one of the other brands that skews younger,
Kia.
Yeah, that's where you're going to put your money. You're trying to reach those folks.
Right.
Right. So
it's complicated. It's complicated.
I'm just glad.
I'm just glad that I was in the era where we could do this, and it was simple. I don't want to say simple. I don't want to minimize.
No.
But there was a formula, and it was a consistent formula that worked. We knew who was watching what and when, and listening to what and where, and reading. We had two newspapers, the Free Press and the News, morning paper, evening paper. It was pretty straightforward.
Right.
But today, so much more distraction. I remember when Sirius XM, which was XM radio first, came on the scene, and the people that went to work there were being pilloried by their colleagues, because how can you go and leave the local radio station that you've been a part of for so many years for this crazy satellite thing? That's never going to work.
Well, it seems to have worked quite well. Thank you very much.
Well, once they got Howard Stern, that changed the model dramatically.
And I think that Howard, it's interesting. I mean, once again, you've probably forgotten more than I know. I used to listen to him on the air. He's a different guy on what he does. And it's odd because he probably could swear a lot more if he wanted to, but I don't hear that much swearing anymore. I mean, it's
he's definitely tempered himself, but he's I mean, do you remember when he was here in Detroit on W4?
Okay, now move out of the way of the sign. Each person on the other side, farther away. Howard, a little bit farther that way.
Fall off that way.
Oh, you're gonna fall off? Okay, just look like.
Okay.
Right here. Got about 27 seconds. And 30.
And he
wasn't here long. I remember him a little bit.
He was a nobody who became
and then
a lot of guys go to New York, Tim, and like a number of famous Detroit personalities went to New York. Many of them succeeded greatly. Some of them came back. I mean, Bill Bonds went to L.A.
Right,
and it didn't work out for him in L.A.
Well, you know who his competitors were on KNBC. It was Tom Snyder at 6.
Yes,
Tom Brokaw at 11.
Yeah, so, right.
Good luck with that, Bill.
Yeah. So LA was a whole different animal. New York was a different animal, and sometimes the local guys thought, well, I'm going to go out there and make a thing and do a thing, and it'll be great. And then they come crawling back here where they were gods and resume their godlike enterprise, which is great.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, Eli Zarrett was at WABC for a while.
Yeah, right.
Personally, I think he's a brilliant broadcaster.
He sure is.
Just brilliant. And what happened out there, I'm not sure.
Well, like I just said, I think what happens is they go out to the major markets that were already populated with the Tom Brokaws and the Tom Snyders and Bill Curtis. And I mean, there's some heavyweight personalities in the major markets. Detroit was still, back in those days, Detroit was number 7. We were a powerhouse and highly thought of. But New York was number 1, LA was number 2, or the reverse. And it was a much more difficult environment. Listen, you're a fascinating guy, and you and I could talk forever. We've already talked for a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to say to my vast viewing audience that Tim Kiska is a brilliant guy with a lot of fascinating stories. His books are great. Go on the Amazon and find the books. And to your students, you kids out there, when you see this, recognize how lucky you are to have a brilliant guy like Tim Kiska as your professor, because he knows a lot and he's very smart and fair.
I don't know. All I can say, Mike, is in the Valley of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king. that very well might be me. I don't know. But
no, you're a vibrant, and by the way, the article that you wrote, this last column that spurred this interview, was brilliant. And
thank you.
Yeah, it was well written, and people like me and Fred Jacobs, people who have been in the media industry, know all that and respect it, and it's worthy of people reading and learning and understanding what's changing in this environment. So.
Nice.
Tim, my friend, I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you. Please join us for one of our radio luncheons. We do them every month. I'll send you a message about that.
All right. Terrific. Thanks. I'll be around.
Many of your friends are at that table every month, and you'd have a good time, and I'd love to have you.
Oh, no. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll be in touch, and I'll let you know when this is going to broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Kiska, and what a great guy, and what a great interview this was. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors here on The Franklin Show.
Look at that. It's so sad.
And I am so grateful to this wonderful studio audience, to my band, to my announcer, to the great cast of characters that work so hard behind the scenes making this show a reality every week. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here on The Franklin Show. Good night, everybody.